Welcome to the deep dive. We're the place, where we cut through all the noise and pull out the really important stuff from various sources, helping you get informed without getting overwhelmed. Today, we're diving into something that affects, well, a lot of outdoor folks. The hunting lease. Okay, let's get into this because look, for so many hunters, finding good, consistent access to hunting land, it's not just a nice to have, it's a real challenge, often frustrating. Our main source today is really solid. It's an article called "Are You Ready for a Hunting Lease? Part 1 of 5 of the Secrets to a Hunting Lease." It's by Sean Fursper, is a COO over at the American Hunting Lease Association. So definitely an expert voice. And this piece is set up as the first of 5 parts, basically guiding hunters through the whole leasing thing. Verbras put forward this powerful idea, and a mantra he calls it. When executed properly, the hunting lease works for everyone involved. I kind of like that. So the big question for you listening is a lease actually right for you? And maybe more importantly, what does executed properly even mean in practice?
That's exactly it. Our mission here in this deep dive is really to get past the surface level stuff. We want to break down the absolute fundamentals, the things that make a lease work or fail. We're aiming to walk you through those first key steps, finding a place, securing it, and actually having a good experience based on Sean's insights. And what's really interesting, I think, is how he immediately shifts the focus. It's not just about finding a piece of land, it's about understanding the relationships.
Right.
He makes it super clear. A lease isn't just like paying rent for dirt, it's a partnership.
Feature partnership, okay.
Yeah, and like any partnership, it needs really clear shared expectations, mutual respect. And he uses this term stewardship. It totally reframes it from just renting land to something more collaborative, investing in an experience together. And he boils it right down to 2 main things right at the start: money and expectations.
Okay, yeah. Money. Let's just be real. For most of us, the first thing that pops into our head with hunting lease is probably, okay, how much is that going to set me back? It feels like the biggest wall.
Yeah.
But this article, it tackles that directly. It kind of busts a common myth.
Mm-hmm.
It points out this popular idea that leasing is just way too expensive, or, it's only for the super rich. Verbras says that last part is absolutely laughable.
Laughable, huh? Strong words.
Yeah. And he backs it up with his own story, something a lot of us can probably relate to, sadly. He lost the hunting spot he had had for years because the landowner sold her farm. He calls it a gut-shot feeling. And it made him promise himself he wouldn't go through that kind of pain, as he puts it, ever again.
Oof. Yeah, that loss of access hits hard. Many hunters have felt that.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting. That feeling, that gut shot, it didn't just sting. It pushed him and his buddies, 6 of them in total, towards leasing. They started searching online, but then they decided to go with a reputable broker, like a company that specializes in hunting leases.
Smart move. Probably saves some headaches.
Yeah, and he really emphasizes looking for the AHLA Certified Associate logo. Says it ensures you're dealing with a trustworthy outfit.
Okay, so that logo means they meet certain standards.
Right. The American Hunting Lease Association's standards for, ethical and fair practices. It gives you confidence. Anyway, within days, they found themselves on a 200-acre farm, southern Indiana, known whitetail country.
Nice. Prime spot.
Definitely. And the cost for this piece of land annually, $4,200.
Okay, $4,200. So let's step back a bit. That number, $4,200, it might sound like a chunk of change up front.
It does, yeah.
But Sean breaks it down. Split between those 6 guys, it works out to just $700 each.
$700.
For the entire year, exclusive access to that 200 acres. He calls that downright doable. And, when you put it like that...
Yeah, it really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? $700 a year.
Totally. Think about the value there. $700 for a whole year, your own private spot. Compare that to, like he says, spending $5,000 to hunt with an outfitter for 5 days.
Big difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
And that yearly access, it unlocks so much more. You can hang trail cameras whenever you want, plant food plots to improve the habitat, really scout things out months ahead of the season.
Shed hunting, too, he mentioned. Other game.
Exactly. Shed hunting in the spring, maybe some small game hunting. It's about really getting to know that specific piece of land, building a relationship with it, not just showing up for a few days. And he gives this great, really practical example of how they made it work financially. 3 of his buddies were firefighters.
Yep.
They figured out they could cover their $700 share and even pitch in for a shared, a community tree stand just by picking up a couple of overtime shifts.
Ah, okay. So trading some time for the lease money.
Precisely. He mentions they all made some small sacrifices. Things like cutting back on golf, working that extra shift, maybe holding off on buying a brand new bow that year.
Right. prioritizing.
That's the core message, I think. It's less about if you have disposable income and more about how you choose to use it. The article kind of nudges you to think, what do you value more? You know, that extra round of golf, the latest gear, or a whole season of having your own spot. It's about consciously lining up your spending with what you're passionate about, even when you've got family and other responsibilities to juggle.
That's a fair point, that prioritizing angle, that disposable income thing.
Yeah.
It resonates. I bet most of us, if we were really honest, could probably shuffle things around to find a few $100 for something we truly care about. My personal kryptonite is probably fancy coffee, if I'm being honest. But still, for some folks, especially maybe younger hunters or those starting families, even $700 can feel like a really significant hurdle.
Oh, absolutely. It's not trivial.
It just underlines that it's a very personal calculation, right?
Yeah.
Finding what truly fits your situation, your budget. So, okay, let's say you figure out the money part. It seems doable, or you make it doable. Then comes the other critical piece. Sometimes, honestly, the trickier piece, managing expectations.
Yes. This is huge.
And this is where a lease stream can turn sour pretty fast if you're not careful. The article gives a really clear warning. It says something like, if you have 5 buddies in your hunting group, and every single one of you expects to shoot a Boone and Crockett buck off your 150-acre lease, you can expect to be disappointed. And for anyone listening who might be newer, a Boone and Crockett buck, that's like the gold standard for trophy whitetails.
Right.
Really high antler score criteria, the big one.
Right. The dream buck for many, setting the bar maybe a little too high from day one on a new, smaller property.
Exactly. Sean explains this danger. Once money changes hands, expectations can just skyrocket.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's all this pressure to be successful.
Which is counterproductive usually.
Totally. Ironically, it can lead to bad hunting habits. You might push it too hard, hunt the property too often, go out when the wind is totally wrong, and basically you end up putting too much pressure on the place.
Spooking the deer.
Right. Too much human activity, scent, noise. The deer get educated fast. They change their patterns, maybe leave the property altogether. And then you're sitting there blaming the land, thinking there are no deer here, when really it was the pressure you created.
Seen it happen.
So the advice in the article, it's simple, but I think really wise. Let your expectations grow naturally. Start with more modest goals, enjoying time outdoors with your friends, the overall experience, maybe taking a do for the freezer, or being happy with a respectable, say, 125-inch buck, or even just helping a friend get on a good deer.
Focusing on the process, not just the outcome.
Precisely. He points out that a massive benefit of having a lease is the ability to make your own decision on what or even if to shoot. You're in control. You manage it. The practical takeaway is really about enjoying the whole journey, the camaraderie, the time in nature, not just fixating on bagging a monster buck right away.
Absolutely spot on. And that idea of expectations, it flows directly into the next critical area, the expectations of the landowner.
Ah, right, the other side of the partnership.
Exactly. What really jumps out is how Sean drives this point home. The hunter-landowner relationship is the cornerstone of the hunting lease. That's not fluff. It's fundamental. This isn't just about signing a check. It's about building trust, ensuring things work smoothly for both parties long term. And that starts with communication. Super clear communication, right from the get-go.
Okay, so what kind of details are we talking about?
Well, he gives some really concrete examples, things that have to be crystal clear before you finalize anything. And these aren't small things. They can absolutely wreck a deal if they're not addressed. Stuff like, can you use ATVs? Are screw-in tree steps okay, or do they damage the trees too much for the landowner's liking? What about camping overnight? Smoking? Alcohol consumption on the property?
Things that can become big things.
Huge things. Can you use surveyor's tape to mark trails? Can you trim shooting lanes, prune branches? These details matter. The article really pushes for having a straightforward chat, maybe over coffee, like he suggests. Get everything out in the open so there are no surprises later.
That makes sense. Avoid assumptions.
Yeah, totally. And then beyond that initial agreement, it's about ongoing common courtesy. Basic respect for their property. Sean mentions how he always makes sure to clean up any sign that I was there, like food wrappers, drink cans, those little hand warmer packets.
Leave no trace.
Pretty much. He rightly points out, your landowner will notice this attention to their property, and they'll appreciate it. Enough, hopefully, to want you back next year. That's how you build longevity. He even throws in a little bonus tip. Dropping by for a casual visit with your landowner now and then, it can sometimes give you valuable information.
Uh-oh. Like what?
Like maybe they just saw a big buck cross the pasture yesterday, or they noticed where deer are bedding down, little nuggets of intel you wouldn't get otherwise. Plus, it just reinforces that relationship.
Yeah, those small gestures, that respect, it goes a long way. You know, that coffee conversation idea, I think that's so important.
It is.
I've heard of situations where just chatting informally brings up things. A standard boilerplate lease agreement might totally miss. Like maybe the landowner's kid likes to ride dirt bikes near one section on weekends. Good to know before you set up a stand there.
Exactly. It gets to that real mutual understanding.
Okay, so let's circle back. We've talked money, we've talked expectations, both yours and the landowner's. Let's recap the big pluses of actually investing in a lease, according to Sean's article.
That's good.
He really ties it together nicely for the listener. First big benefit, limited pressure. This isn't just about chasing giant antlers, right? It's about actually being able to manage the hunting pressure.
Which lets deer feel safer, behave more naturally.
Right. Maybe lets younger bucks grow older. It leads to a more consistent, better quality hunt over time because the place isn't constantly overrun. Second, he revisits affordability, reinforcing the idea that, yes, leases can work within a budget. Even smaller properties can offer great hunting. It really aims to dismantle that only for the rich myth.
Making it feel accessible.
And third, time. This one's massive, I think. Instead of spending countless hours scouting public land, maybe bumping into other hunters, dealing with that uncertainty.
You're investing that time learning your specific lease. Deer patterns, travel corridors, bedding areas on that property.
Exactly. Maximizing your actual time spent hunting effectively. It brings us right back to his main point, that mantra. When executed properly, the hunting lease works for everyone involved.
It really does tie it all together, and then crucially, the article spells out how you execute it properly. What are the non-negotiables for making it work structurally and legally? He highlights two absolutely essential components. Every single lease arrangement needs these. No exceptions.
Okay, what are they?
First, the written lease agreement. It can't just be a handshake deal, especially when money's involved.
Needs to be official.
It needs to be written down and, importantly, signed by all parties. It outlines all those critical details. The cost, payment schedule, exact number of hunters allowed, which game species are included, property boundaries, rules, everything. This isn't just, good practice. It's your legal framework. It's the roadmap if disagreements pop up. It protects your investment of time and money.
Got it. Written agreement signed by everyone. What's the second thing?
Equally vital, a hunting lease liability policy. Insurance.
Okay. Liability insurance.
Yes. He stresses this isn't optional, it's essential protection. And it needs to list both the hunting group and the landowner as additional insureds.
Why both?
Well, Sean notes that hunting is generally safe, but accidents can happen. There's always some risk. This policy protects everyone involved if there's property damage or, worse, an injury. It's especially important, he points out, for landowners. They might have significant assets, their farm, their home, that could be at risk in a lawsuit if something goes wrong on their property due to the hunting activities. They need that protection.
That makes total sense. Peace of mind for them.
Exactly. And for the hunters, too. The AHLA, his organization, offers these policies. He mentions most run about $235 a year and typically cover leases up to 500 acres. Often those reputable brokers we talked about, they'll either include this insurance or provide easy access to it as part of their service.
So $235 for that level of protection seems pretty reasonable.
It really is when you consider the potential costs of not having it. Think about the peace of mind, the security that having both that solid written agreement and the liability insurance provides. It's kind of priceless for making the whole thing work smoothly and safely.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about there. But it's laid out very practically. That focus on the written agreement and the insurance, it really highlights how this can be a serious, well-managed, and beneficial setup when you do it right.
For sure.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener, what's the main takeaway here?
I think it's that deciding whether to get into a hunting lease. It's really a personal decision. It depends heavily on your situation, your realistic expectations about the hunting, about the relationships, and how you approach your finances, your budget planning. Our goal with this deep dive, using Sean Fabrush's insights, was really to give you a solid framework, a guideline for thinking about a lease so you can approach it in a way that maximizes your chances for, well, satisfaction, whether you're already leasing, thinking about it, or just curious. And looking maybe at the bigger picture, stepping back a bit. What Sean's article really implies is that A hunting lease, when it's done the right way, it's actually about more than just finding a place to hunt.
How so?
It seems to be about building a small community, almost, fostering that shared experience we talked about, and engaging in genuine, thoughtful stewardship of the land. It's about creating a relationship built on that mutual respect, that clear understanding. It goes beyond just the moments you're actually in the stand.
That's a great way to put it.
So, maybe a final thought to leave you with, something provocative perhaps. Try considering not just the prize, the animal harvested, but the whole process, the partnership, the planning, the communication that a well-run hunting lease requires. What sort of unexpected benefits could you gain from investing in that kind of shared experience, that shared responsibility, instead of just focusing on a solitary hunt? And maybe even think about how those principles, shared investment, clear communication, mutual expectations, how could those apply in other parts of your life beyond just the hunting woods?